think the time has come to give you a little music.
Many musicians have the ability to bring tears to the eyes of the listener. Unfortunately for Cacofonix the Bard, the combination of his voice and a lyre brings blood to the ears and rain from the sky, but he chooses to ignore this handicap, much to the disappointment and irritation of the other inhabitants of the little Gaulish village, and anybody else who he attempts to serenade in the year 50 BC.
I shall appease the god of the thunderstorm with a sunny tune.
According to some of the film adaptations of the comic book series Asterix and Obelix the Gauls, hearing the bard sing resembles an electric drill and a sonic shockwave. Cacofonix has been part of this series from the very beginning, along with the druid Getafix and Chief Vital Statistics. As the bard does no singing in his first appearance, the joke stems from the fact anyone with a pair of functioning ears consider one of the most ghastly sounding noises of all time to be produced via a bagpipe player.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you think this might be an ideal time for a farewell song?
Cacofonix's personality is a stereotypical artiste, complete with a grander-than-thee attitude, targeted at the uncouth villagers he lives with and is constantly mocked and abused by. The bard's theatrical manner naturally make him seem very camp compared to the other Gauls.
You cannot leave without a farewell ballad.
No, but you shouldn't.
No. Oh, but I insist. Me.
For the majority of Asterix, Cacofonix's function is first to offer to sing a farewell song, just as Asterix and Obelix are about to leave the village on an adventure. Originally, the villagers responded to this by walking away as quickly as they could.
I will now sing for you a little farewell tune. Oh! Barbarians.
As the adventures increased, Cacofonix declaring he was about to sing became timid suggestions, as by now he knew if he so much as plucked a string on his lyre without permission from fully automatics, it would result in a severe headache, dealt to him by the buff blacksmith. I'm surprised Cacofonix doesn't have stars circling around his head permanently, considering he is punched almost as frequently as the Romans. Secondly, in the final panel of practically every Asterix adventure, Cacofonix can be seen bound, gagged, and tied to a tree, to prevent him from spoiling the banquet the rest of the village are feasting upon by serenading them with a song.
Hey, la, hey, la, hey, la, hey, la.
This French series, created in 1960 by writer René Goscinny and artist Albert Uderzo, uses an immense load of puns for its humour, and the characters' names are a key example. In his native language, the cacophony of Celtic music is called Assurancetourix, which translates to insurance against all risks.
In what way is that a joke?
The translators of the first animated Asterix film, produced in 1967, dubbed the bard Stop the Musics.
Oh my, here comes Stop the Musics.
And 22 years after that, in the American dub of Asterix et la Golden Menhir, he was called Frank Sinatrix.
Hey, Frank Sinatrix, are you the one who doesn't believe him?
Cacofonix's hut is the most unique home in the village, due to it being high above everyone else's. The treehouse is rarely used to observe any approaching Romans, since the legionaries know trying to invade the village of superhumans is futile. The location is ideal for the bard and the villagers, as it reduces the risk of anyone being disturbed if ever Cacofonix wishes to practice his musical muse, providing he keeps his mouth shut and only plays his lyre.
The Romans are a-coming, oh! The Romans are a-coming, oh! Hey-ho!
Talking to hear me!
Unlike fully automatics, unhygienics, and geriatrics, Cacofonix rarely gets involved with whatever is going on. Then again, I wouldn't want to either if I knew it would just result in getting bashed in the face. But the fact he never seizes the opportunity to punch somebody else in the face strongly suggests he is strongly against the use of steroids in combat.
I do believe the best course of action is to hope that all these Romans leave us alone. Did I do good?
Although overall a minor supporting character, the bard has had his moments of importance and usefulness. And so here are all the adventures of Asterix and Obelix, which Cacofonix made the most noise in. In Asterix the Gladiator, Roman prefect Odius Asparagus wants to give Emperor Julius Caesar one of the supposedly invincible Gauls as a gift. Centurion Army Surplus has a patrol capture Cacofonix, who had gone into the forest to frighten the wild boars. When the captive bard reaches Rome, Caesar decides it's his present so he can do whatever he likes with it, and sentences Cacofonix to the circus, and not the clown kind. Asterix and Obelix come to rescue him, however his talent as a terrible, relentless singer is what actually saves him from being chewed up by lions. And the fact that the whole plot revolved around saving the bard still doesn't stop the villagers from giving him his usual treatment at the banquet.
Farewell and adieu to you, fair Celtic ladies. Farewell and adieu to you, ladies of gold.
Cacofonix surprisingly only appears in 25% of this comic, although that percentage is definitely doubled if you count the amount of times his name is said by the heroes searching for him. In 1985, The Gladiator was combined with Asterix the Legionary into the animated movie Asterix et la Surprise de César. Young lovers, Panacea and Tragicomics substitute the bard as the kidnapped Gauls. In fact, Cacofonix barely cameos in the film. He is seen amongst the marching villagers who are about to attack a Roman camp, brandishing a Celtic battle horn, but missing his cape. In Asterix and the Normans, Vital Statistics' nephew, Justforkix, has travelled from the 1960s, and Cacofonix is in charge of providing the music during the welcoming dance, as long as he doesn't provide vocals. Last time the bard was involved in said activity was in the first comic, only he had a violin to fiddle with.
Left row forward, right row back.
The rebellious Justforkix upstages him, prompting the bard to forget the blacksmith's threat and bellow out one of his grating hits. The teenager praises the dazed Cacofonix, telling the bard he'd be far more appreciated if he performed to youngsters like him in the city. This of course indicates that Cacofonix's problem is that he is ahead of his time, and his style of singing would actually be perfectly acceptable in the second half of the 20th century. Later in the story, Justforkix has been kidnapped by a group of Normans, who have come to Gaul to learn the meaning of fear, which they believe will give them the ability to fly. Asterix can think of only one thing shocking enough to give the Normans their first taste of shakes, and so sends Obelix back to the village to collect Cacofonix. But the bard is on his way to Laetitia. He refuses to return until Obelix explains Justforkix's life is in danger, and the only thing that can save him is a demonstration of traditional Gaulish music. The bard succeeds in turning the Normans into a pack of cowardly Celtics, and they flee back to Scandinavia. This rare triumph apparently boosts Cacofonix's spirits enough that he decides to stay in the village. Cacofonix appears in 30% of this comic, which was adapted into an animated film in 2006, and combined with Asterix's adventure in Britain for a live-action movie in 2012. Cacofonix doesn't appear at all in On Her Majesty's Service, And in Asterix and the Vikings, although the story does conclude with him scaring the scary Vikings, that plot point is quite inconsequential, as rather than camp on the beach near the village, Chief Olaf and his men kidnap the team to the frozen north.
I'm sure you'll appreciate my newest composition.
In 1967, between Asterix the Legionary and Asterix and the Chieftain's Shield, an Asterix audiobook was created, The Golden Menhir. Cacofonix wants to take part in a musical talent contest, and so he and his mini harp are accompanied by Asterix and Obelix to help protect him from the Romans and Gaulish muggers. This scenario is very similar to the beginning portion of the third adventure, Asterix and the Goths, where our heroes escorted Geoffrey to a Druid of the Year competition, where the prize was also a small pointy yellow rock. For 53 years, the Golden Menhir was a rare collector's item, as it was never republished nor distributed outside of France. But in October 2020, the book, written by Goscinny and containing illustrations by Uderzo, was finally re-released and remastered, updating Cacofonix's old green shoes to blue ones. As of this video, it has yet to be translated into English.
Mais oui, madame, c'est là que j'ai retrouvé mon âme.
In the Mansions of the Gods, after an apartment building is built in the forest, Asterix's plan to get rid of all the Roman civilians who have come to live there is to first use Obelix to scare away one of the occupants, and then immediately buy the vacant room for Cacofonix to live in, without telling the bard the real reason why, which is of course so his singing will drive away every other resident in the building. The bard may only appear in 10% of the comic, but his role in Mansions of the Gods is still worth mentioning.
Alright then, now what?
This was adapted into a CGI animated film in 2014. The plot point was similar, but used slightly differently. In protest to the rest of the villagers choosing to accept the arrival of Roman civilians, as it is proving extremely profitable for the fishmonger and ironmonger, Cacofonix leaves along with Asterix, Obelix and Geoffrey, and the four men move to the block of flats. The next morning, Cacofonix is told to sing as loud as he can, and is even dosed up with the magic potion. But whereas this occurred in the final few pages of the comic, the 90-minute movie is only halfway through, and Asterix's plan backfires due to the rest of the village deciding to move into the Mansions of the Gods too. In Asterix and the Magic Carpet, for the purposes of this story, Uderzo, who had taken over writing and drawing the comics due to Goscinny's death in 1977, decided that Cacofonix's bad singing could now make it rain. And as word has travelled about this, Watziznehm, a fakir from India, has come to ask for help, as there has been no rain in his kingdom for several months, and if the drought doesn't end soon, the princess will be sacrificed. And so Cacofonix, Asterix, Obelix and Dogmatix are flown to India via Magic Carpet. They have many mini-adventures during the journey, but when they arrive, the bard has lost his voice and cannot sing nor even speak. As Lemsip hasn't been invented yet, the quickest known remedy requires the patient to soak in a bath of elephant milk mixed with elephant dung. But the bard is captured by orders of the Raja's rival, Whodunit, and left to be trampled to death by elephants. Luckily, due to the rancid smell, the elephants treat him like royalty, and our heroes save the princess and trigger a monsoon. The Magic Carpet is Cacofonix's highest performance, as he appears in 80% of this adventure.
Cacofonix was in high spirits. "I feel inspired now I'm airborne," he announced. I will now give you an air on... No, Cacofonix, don't. Asterix begged him. This is no time for singing. If the carpet gets unbalanced, it might let us all down. Ha! Barbarians, muttered Cacofonix.
The last comic in which the bard actually takes part in the plot is Asterix and the Secret Weapon, and begins with a reminder that Cacofonix shares the responsibility of educating the village's children with Geoffrey. He was only ever shown doing this once before, 30 years earlier in the second comic. The only other bit of child-minding he does was in Asterix in Spain, where he was asked to look after Pepe, but due to the boy loving the bard's loud lullabies, his babysitting duties only lasted 1 page. Although we are given no example of how well the bard functions as a teacher, the ladies of the village are not satisfied, and have sent for a replacement, a very liberated woman, Bravura. Cacofonix is understandably outraged and storms out of the village to live not in Lutetia, but in the forest. Ironically, Bravura's singing is just as migraine-inducing as Cacofonix's, but perhaps worse as her instrument of choice is a drum. As our hero's chivalry prevents them from fighting the new lady legionaries, to stop them from conquering the village, Asterix gets Cacofonix to sing until they are soaked. He still only manages to appear in 15% of its pages.
Oh, so a woman can't be a bard? Said Mrs. Fully Automatics ominously. No, ma'am, shouted Cacofonix furiously. She's barred from being a bard. That's just too bad.
Currently 14 films have been produced based on this series, 10 animated and 4 live action. 3 I've already mentioned. As for the actors who voiced the bard in English, the website Behind the Voice Actors cannot put a name to the voice of his small appearances in Asterix the Gaul, Asterix and Cleopatra, and Asterix in Britain.
Oh, good morning to you on this day, so new to you.
There are 2 English dubs of Asterix and the Big Fight, or Asterix and the Tap with the Menhir as I prefer to call it.
Might I suggest a bar or two of music?
In the British version, he was voiced by Tim Brooke-Taylor. Greg Burson dubbed Frank Sinatrix in the American version.
Let me sing for him. He's bound to remember my talent.
Neither sang the song Zonked.
Now it's only can remember. He just sees stars. So crazy.
Comedian Rick Mayall allegedly voices him in Asterix Conquers America.
Cacofonix, can you see what the Romans are doing from up there?
The Romans? Well, what should the Romans be doing? They're hiding from us, aren't they?
I say allegedly, as like most of the supporting cast, Rick was not credited, which, given his popularity in the UK at the time, I find rather odd.
A prophet is without honour in his own land.
Jess Harnell voiced him in Asterix and the Vikings.
Perhaps you gentlemen from the north would like to enjoy an original Gaul ballad?
Alan Marriott in The Mansions of the Gods.
I'm off to the mansions of the gods! Unlike you Romans, appreciate artists, and I'll tell you this.
Cacofonix, come now or never.
In short, I'm outraged!
And Andrew Cowden in The Secret of the Magic Potion.
As acting chief of our dear village, I'll take this opportunity to express how proud I am to be.
In Asterix and Obelix's live-action debut, Cacofonix was played by French comic actor Pierre Palmade, and dubbed into English by David Holt.
Romance! The hells of my life with romance!
In Asterix and the Olympic Games, rather than do as the comic did and have all of the male villagers join Asterix, Obelix and Getafix in Greece, only Cacofonix comes along, or rather shows up after our heroes already arrived.
I've had enough of our barbaric little village where my talent is never recognised. Now, here I am in the City of Arts.
He was played by Frank Dubosc, but the English dub's cast is a mystery, which may have been requested considering Asterix and the Olympic Games was voted the worst French movie made in 2007.
I will sing my anthem for Gaul.
Speaking of games, Cacofonix was one of 4 playable characters, alongside Mrs. Geriatrix and of course Asterix and Obelix, in the video game Asterix Mega Madness. Missions include collecting ingredients for the magic potion, destroying an entire fortified Roman camp, a race while simultaneously pulling and firing catapults, and digging holes in the village to find keys Dogmatics accidentally buried.
This is certainly an occasion to celebrate with a tune, isn't it? Cacofonix the Bard immediately offers a composed one, but that idea is not very well received.
In the action-adventure video game Asterix and Obelix XXL, or Kick Buttix as it was titled for its American release, our heroes must fight their way through Norway, Greece, Switzerland, Egypt and Rome to rescue Getafix, Fully Automatics, Unhygienics, Impedimenta, Panacea, Mr. and Mrs. Geriatrix, Chief Vital Statistics and his shield bearers, and Cacofonix.
I feel like I want to sing a little song. A song of celebration. No! But why? Do you not like my art?
Yes, of course, we're just in a hurry.
The Bard does appear in the recently released Golden Menhir game to announce that the village is being attacked by the final boss. Returning to the film world, 2018's The Secret of the Magic Potion does give Cacofonix an important role to play, although it's not particularly vital to the story. As all the male villagers have decided to accompany Asterix, Obelix and a broken-ankled Getafix on a quest to find a new druid, Vital Statistics has given the Bard the responsibilities of looking after the village and all its wives and children. The women make it clear they have no intention of being attentive to Cacofonix's temporary entitlement, and thanks to a supply of magic potion left by Getafix, can protect the village without instructions from a man wearing a miniature metal chicken on his head.
Of course, given the circumstances, a little panic may be in order. Good. Now, are we sure we're out of magic potion?
The year 2020 took Uderzo to join Goscinny in that big banquet in the sky. But even with the death of both its creators, the fact that the last 4 comics were made by a new writer and artist duo, even if Goscinny and Uderzo still receive top credit, definitely means that, like Lucky Luke, Asterix will continue to appear on page and screen, meaning that as long as there is an adventure culminating in a feast of wild boar, everyone within earshot will insist that Cacofonix the Bard be forcefully prevented from singing.
2,000 years later.
Barbarians.